Marketing is hard. But I'll tell you a little secret. It doesn't have to be. Let me point something out. You're listening to a podcast right now, and it's great. You love the host. You seek it out and download it. You listen to it while driving, working out, cooking, even going to the bathroom. Podcasts are a pretty close companion. And this is a podcast ad. Did I get your attention? You can reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Libsyn Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a pre-produced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience in their favorite podcasts with Libsyn Ads. Go to libsynads.com, that's Libsyn, ads.com today.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and yet again, welcome back to the Backyard Gardens podcast. Hybrids or heirlooms, which is better? Well, it's not really which is better, it's which is better for you. So we hope you enjoy this episode. This is another one that you guys really listened to a lot last year. And all of these you vote for with your downloads and your listens. So thank you so much. Thank you for being part of the show. If you'd like to support us, please do so by becoming a subscriber or a patron, or check out our YouTube channel. We have episodes going up now. These episodes are not video that are being replayed, but we do have some fillers coming in just to kind of keep it going. So please feel free to come check us out on YouTube. And the Planter app sponsors this show, so please check them out. The link is below. That is the Planter app, and it is exactly why we are not recording new episodes at this very moment, because we are planning our gardens and getting everything ready for next year. So get the link below, get yourself a discount, buy some seeds from us, use the code YBBBB to get yourself a discount. Get yourself, if you buy $35 or more, you will get free shipping. So we hope to be sending you guys some seeds soon, and I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day. So I hope you enjoy the show. It is really all about hybrids or heirlooms.
To have a good harvest, one must plant good seeds and must also use the right kind of fertilizer. The carrots have grown large and firm. How good they will taste.
Well, it's already spring when you're listening to this, but it's the first day of spring here. I had to double check the calendar, so happy spring, everybody. We're going to be discussing... Look, Batavia's already shaking her head, and we're 30 seconds in.
Give a gal a chance to hit the bell. First day of spring. Come on.
We're going to be discussing heirlooms or hybrids. Look, I know there's people out there that have strong feelings, but just stick with us on this one, okay? So we're going to be discussing the benefits and, I about said disbenefits, but I don't think that's a word, the cons to growing one or the other. How's that sound?
Well, I can go with it.
Which one do you grow? Do you have a preference?
Only one tomato. Maybe most of my tomatoes, because there are a couple of tomato varieties that I like, and they also are heirlooms. Okay. But that's it. Am I giving away the show? Otherwise, no. I'm as loose as they come when it comes to garden varieties. Yeah. I'm sorry.
You might be, but you know what? You might come to find out, especially once we start paying more attention to it, if you haven't, that you may, you may be more into it than you think. Does that make sense?
Okay. No. I'm tracking with you. I'm just giving you a hard time. Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, so what is an heirloom? Let's get that out of the way. An heirloom is, I'm going to read you the definition. It's a vegetable. We're just going to call it a vegetable because that's what we're mostly discussing. Must be open pollinated or pollinated by insects, birds, wind, or other natural means, and breed true or retain its original traits from one generation to the next. So there is also a year in which they kind of made the cutoff. And I think it was 1950. So anything grown before 1950 and has been stayed true is considered an heirloom. And then anything after that, that is where they combine. So if you take like a cherry tomato and a Roma tomato and you pollinate them together, they make little baby seeds, and then you get new plants. That would be a hybrid. And so a hybrid is meant to kind of get the best traits out of each plant, maybe for biggest growth, maybe for heat tolerance or disease resistance or insect resistance or something like that, where heirlooms are not. So that's the general consensus behind all of this. You think I covered that good?
Per the internet, yes.
Yeah. So now a benefit to growing an heirloom, and I think we'd say that right off the bat based off that definition, is saving the seeds, right? Because it's always going to go back, as long as it hasn't cross-pollinated, which you're going to have to leave this asterisk in the whole thing. Yeah. You're going to have to... As long as it's not cross-pollinated, it will go back, and then it will always have the same traits as its parent plant. So,
I mean, I think so we understand kind of the impact of it cross-pollinating versus not. But I think the question becomes for an individual gardener, how important is that to you? Like today versus the future.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
like what if we didn't have any heirlooms? Hard stop.
Yeah, I don't know. You made me think. Like what? You know what? I don't.
Uncomfortable, isn't it?
Well, it is
in the middle of an episode.
In the middle. No. This is the beginning, girl. I think that if you didn't have heirlooms, I mean, we would just be doing hybrids constantly. You know what I mean? Like you would just constantly be crossbreeding. It's the only way. I mean, I am not a seed geneticist or whatever. So, I think that...
Well, the reason
go ahead.
I asked the question because, and I mean, just came to my mind just now, but I asked the question, it's probably more rhetorical because the answer could determine how important it is for us to continue to support and maintain heirlooms.
Yeah.
And I think there's, with so much available, and focusing on hybrids as an example, or just seeds in general, it's very easy to lose sight of kind of retaining, the oldies, but goodies.
Yeah, the genetics. Well, you know what? So I thought like that for a long time.
Stability.
And then I started learning a lot of things in the past couple of years, and I grow a lot of heirlooms myself. And the benefit I like about heirlooms is, one, sometimes they just look weird. They're just different kinds of plants. And then also for saving seeds. Like if you really want to save seeds or something like that, then you're good. But I've noticed some things like in my area don't grow as well. And so I've been interested to see like if a hybrid variety will make a difference in that. You know what I mean? Because heirlooms, they're not known, generally speaking, as producing a lot of food. Some of these hybrids, I mean, they're bred, so I mean they just keep pumping and pumping and pumping to where you can't even keep up with them. So yeah, I think so. A point of clarification when we talk about if you're interested in saving seeds, we know that you can save seeds from hybrid plants. Of course you can.
Like we know this, right? So if you put that aside for a second, saving true seeds, which actually is a company name, so that's a different conversation, but saving something that's true to form when it comes to that plant is a different experience. Yeah. I think it's an excellent point when it comes to the gains that we have when it comes to some of these hybrids and the way they've been bred, right? Disease resistant this, higher producers that, I mean, clearly we could talk about some of the different color producing vegetables and so on.
For sure.
Compact plants and all of that. And you don't get those things, as easily when it comes to heirlooms. And so you may, and I don't want to mix topics too much, but it's kind of like understand what you're getting in your garden. The idea of like gardening organically, right? It comes with some challenges that maybe if you are gardening more conventionally that you wouldn't have, right? So then you get back to the heirlooms and it's like, well, my pineapple tomato, which I really enjoy, I could expect the same thing from it year over year.
That's a big benefit of that.
And that's important to me for that particular plant.
Yeah. Because it could revert back to one of the parent plants, or it could be the same. So you said something about gardening organically. Is growing hybrids not organic?
Great setup. That's not what I meant. And I've not considered that. I think that you can garden. I'm going to make a decision right now. I think you can garden organically while using hybrids. Right. So I'm going to tell you that is the correct answer, because I was going to say at some point, if you're thinking to yourself like hybrid means GMO, you're dead wrong. That's not what this is. So, I mean, a little known fact I think people don't realize is like your common ear of corn that you get, pick whatever, that's been, crossbred and pollinated over hundreds of years, if not thousands, to get that perfect ear of corn. So beforehand, you would get, it looked like a piece, a kernel here, a kernel there, and somebody somehow figured out, well, maybe if I put these two flowers together, or the two, what's it called? Where the pollen comes out of them, whatever, on the corn. Silks. The silks and the tassels.
If you tassel them across, then you'll get better. So, over the years, that's what has happened. So hybrid doesn't mean GMO. So it doesn't mean you're not gardening organically. It literally means you just took two flowers and bumped them together and made a new plant. So,
but just to, again, another clarifying note, there's heirloom varieties of corn as well. If you still go back to the 1950s, right? Hasn't been stable since then. But no, I think that it's always worth a shout out when it comes to the GMO bit and the marketing around it. Like when I go to any of the big box stores, I'm definitely going to see, and probably some of the smaller stores as well, see seeds that are labeled no GMO. It's kind of like how misleading it is to have, a natural peanut butter. Label. That's not what it means, girl.
I started laughing because if you're buying a pack of seeds for $3 and it's GMO, it'd be like $50, and you'd be signing contracts and everything else. So
that's really a really good point.
But this isn't a GMO talk. I was just wanting to say, this is the deal with that. This is literally just like picking plant breeds and traits and mixing them together to make one. So it's like we have our listener, Sir Purple. He crossbred two peppers over a couple years, and I'm growing his pepper now, the Sir Purple pepper, and it is a cross between I think it's a purple Apache and a Serrano pepper. I believe that's the cross. So that could be a hybrid, right? It's cross pollinated, so it's a new whatever. You know what I mean? So. But as far as like picking specific traits out of it, I don't know. Some areas I think heirlooms are really good for, but in some areas I think hybrids, there's a good argument to use those. And it's interesting to see that, especially when you talk about like compacted plants and stuff like that, like bush varieties. Look, have you ever grown a bush variety that really grew like a bush? So that way they might need to go back to the drawing board, in my opinion.
Yeah. I bet there's a definition though that describes exactly what it looks like versus the idea of it being like, a bush, like a tree bush, like, and I bet it has something to do with, bush for gardening purposes equals height of X or lower and, width of, X or less. Versus a bush, which I think is kind of funny.
Do you know what the all-time, if there's a lot of people out there that just will not grow hybrids, no judgment, but I ask you this one question. If there was a hybrid squash or zucchini seed that was resistant completely to the squash vine borer, would you start growing it? Completely resistant.
Wait, was this GMO illegally sold?
No.
A GMO seed that does that?
It would be magic.
I missed that point. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's stuff that you look at. Yeah, they're hybrids. So I garden and grow plants that are hybrid as well as heirloom. There was a time where I wanted to focus primarily on heirloom, but that time has passed. And so some of those hybrids, as I scan through about which variety, especially if you had trouble with a thing, you look down like, beans that are rust resistant, so you definitely, I selected because in part that. So yeah, if I came across something that was like, the dirty bastard is not going to be a problem in your garden, grow this one. Yeah. Now, the catch with some of those is energy and focus, and the science has gone into avoid the squash vine borer. But how does it taste?
Probably the same.
May not be bred for the best taste.
Well, I think, so now you're getting into the weeds. I have not had a hybrid.
Hi, have you met me before?
Yeah, I have. I have not had a hybrid plant that I grew that I was like, oh man, that just tastes weird. Or ever eaten when, it's like, oh, there's something wrong with that. It's just like eating like, if you go back to GMO corn, like they put it in food and it's not like, in 1998-9 when they introduced it, that food started tasting different. Like I don't know how that works.
Well, no, that's not what I'm saying though. So there's a difference between, and stay with me for a second. I was making a meal and I had some corn. I was going to tell a tomato story, but let's go with corn. And I steamed the corn. I didn't even boil it. Steamed the corn and I took a bite out of it. I enjoy corn, and it was so bad. A part of what I'm doing now is like, it's not worth the calories.
Yeah.
Like I'm throwing it out. Like it was just bad, flavorless. Right. So a similar experience with the tomato, and I keep on coming back around, especially this time of year. Like I can't believe how much worse this is compared to what I'm growing in my garden. Right. So I'm not talking that extreme. I'm just saying that there's some plants across vegetables that are known for, they taste delicious. Right. That doesn't mean that every vegetable is going to taste that way. Zucchini is probably a bad example because I don't know there's a whole lot of flavor in that anyway, but I think that varieties can be bred, hybrid varieties can be bred to produce more. They put together pairings of vegetables that, this is going to taste spectacular, So I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm saying that you may end up sacrificing, something else that's super sweet as a tomato, a cherry tomato, compared to one that's just not.
Yeah. Yeah. So
you won't know it until you grow it.
So I'm going to be completely honest. I honestly have no clue how they make hybrid seeds. So my assumption is, because I know that when you see them or you read about them, you're like, it's like delicious taste, nice crisp, resistant to X, Y, and Z, and, repels this, that, and the other. And so what I imagine is there's multiple plants going together possibly to create, because I wonder how many failed hybrid, grows there are, because I guess the idea is before they go on the market, I do know this, they need to be kind of like a stable plant. You know what I mean? Like it can't be like super wishy-washy or whatever. Like you need to be the seed needs to be stabilized. So there is that. So I'm not sure exactly how that goes. Now, if we want to get into the real problem with the hybrids versus the heirlooms, is they can be really expensive. Considering on the amount of seeds that you get for some of them. So these are the ones where you'll get, 15 seeds per pack. Where versus other ones you'll get, 40 or 50, which is a big difference.
I'm not sure if I noted that for hybrid versus heirloom.
Yeah, and I think also it goes into what vegetable there is too that's different. Like we just tried to grow I can't remember the variety of tomato, but we started it late and it was a hybrid, and we got 10 seeds in the pack. 10 seeds for $4 versus, we had some what was it called? Homesteaders that we're trying again this year, and we had like 100 in the pack. So it's just a really big difference,
Are you saying that Which was it, a hybrid or an heirloom for the 100 seeds you got?
Heirloom.
Okay, and so you're thinking that for a hybrid we get fewer seeds compared to heirloom?
Fewer, more expensive, yeah. And if you go to like some of the websites, because a lot of the hybrids I do know as well, there's some that you can get as like regular like us, but if you're growing in like farmer status, you can get like huge packs of them, and they're kind of reserved for that, so they're harder for the regular gardener to get, and they're very expensive. But you're also getting like a pound of seeds. But if you divvied it up and did the math, you would see that there's a big difference. You know, because I mean, hell, like I bought my onions this year; they were micrograms. Missed that on the package.
Yeah, I'm saying I'm not sure if I made that observation while partially not believing it. I made an assumption that things similar to a green pepper is less expensive than a red pepper, because we know the growing time for a green pepper is shorter than the growing time for a pepper to mature and become red, right? You know, that's been my great assumption as to why one is more expensive than the other. And I am also assuming that for heirlooms, it takes more to, I mean, clearly it's a specialty thing, so you kind of have that sticker price there, but also it takes more work to maintain that.
Well, I mean,
you know,
I think it's just like with everything. You're going to have farms that everything's isolated the way it's supposed to be to collect the seeds. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess.
And so there's not as much stabilization of the seed occurring. Now, I mean, I'm sure you can get some, there's always going to be a few, you know, the outlier that would be noticeably cheaper or something like that.
Okay.
You just sent me a check mark. What's that mean?
Oh, that was like basically like a thumbs up. That was the first thing that popped up.
Check mark's weird.
I do this with work. Like the level that people, I can't believe the distraction. Like, look, scan it, keep on talking. Like I do that all the time. Can you not read and talk and listen at the same time?
I can, not really. I can't even chew gum and walk sometimes.
It's the fakeness of multitasking. It doesn't exist. So are there particular things in your garden that you prefer to grow as an heirloom versus a hybrid?
Well, so I'm testing it out a little bit this year. You know, I forgot to buy my watermelon seeds. So I figured, you know what, this is a good time to maybe give it a shot and see what happens. And see, the only problem I have with the watermelon in particular, I mean, how easy can it be to save the seed from a watermelon? So,
yeah.
You know, but when we're fighting disease a lot and stuff like that, it kind of makes sense to go down that path. And then also, we possibly, for next year, we may be looking into a pepper of some sort. Because you know how it is. You don't really start getting your peppers until like the end of the year. So a lot of times the hybrids will be bred to produce faster. And, you know, so that's something too that we may be able to use as well to our advantage. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure like the corn I'm growing is probably a hybrid. I guarantee you it is. So it's a super sweet variety. So I guarantee you, but you know, we are growing a lot of heirlooms because I've saved a lot of seeds and I'm continuing to grow those, and I continue to buy them. And I've noticed actually too, because then I was like, at one point I had bought seeds. And I was like, well, I need to get some more. Let me look and see if I can find some hybrids. And I went to my usual suspect websites, and I couldn't even find them on the websites. So I kind of had to search farther out. You know what I mean? And I wasn't about to spend $5 in shipping for one pack of seeds.
No. I'll show you one that I've tried, and I can't yet recommend it, but it definitely is an heirloom variety for a sweet corn. I've got these seeds from your big box stores, too, if you're still in the market. I think...
Bantam?
Have you planted your corn yet?
No. I'm planting my corn probably in about a month.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think, I mean, I think that there are two that I really want to keep in my garden that I know for sure are heirlooms. There are probably a few more. And again, that's, that there are tomatoes, pineapple, the boxcar woolly, just because it seemed to be such a big producer that first year, not so much this last year, but that's a whole tomato saga. And then there are a couple of, I think my forward hook chard, I think that's heirloom. So it's basically the plant that I like first. And then like, it's, by the way, it's an heirloom. So, because I want to continue to grow that plant, it's like potentially bonus,
Well, it's like when I first started gardening, I didn't give a crap about any of that. It didn't matter. I just started growing it. But then after a while, I was like, you know what? I started wanting to, what really moved me is I wanted to save seeds. And then I started realizing like, oh, there's some weird ass looking food going on here. Like, I think I'd like to grow something different, I mean, I personally don't care about growing regular bell peppers. So I'll grow, I grow the lipstick peppers and stuff like that. And they're all heirloom. So I can go either way on it, and I don't see a problem with it. I think I like, as me being like a traditional gardener type person, I like having them so it's like, a piece of history in your garden. This is the same thing that was grown by, Uncle Willie 500 years ago or something. I don't know, 50 years ago. So there is that aspect.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm surprised it took us this long to get there. That's a bit of the beginning of the episode. I was like, like what happens if we don't have them? Yeah. Like we lose a piece of that history. And I don't yet have that same connection. I do like a good story. Like if there's this heirloom and then there's like a story to tell around it. I find that uber intriguing. But that's not always the case, or at least it's not always immediately obvious what that story is. Sometimes you have to poke around a little bit.
Well, it's like we were talking last year maybe, and I've been growing collards and saving the seeds from them. And, it's after so many years, you kind of don't even know what that seed is anymore. And then it's like I was telling you, it'd be cool to pass it down to my son if he was into it and say, here's, the collards. He's like, what kind of collards is it? And be like, I don't know, name it, And then he'll be like, this is my daddy's collard seeds that he grew for 30 years, and just kept saving the seeds over and over and over. So there is that kind of aspect to it that is a nice story to tell, because I know that every time I plant that seed, I know what we're going to get in the future.
Yeah, it's funny because I was just thinking like the part I like about this episode is it's not a question that's asked often. Yeah. Like, like, is it an heirloom or a hybrid? Although there's some strong opinions about, one or both of those. I kind of think about the way that people will definitely see a plant performing in my garden and ask, mostly online, people will ask, where did you get those seeds from? Like, what's the name of that particular plant? Like, obviously that, that vegetable or whatever. When people see my garden in person, they hardly ever ask. Again, maybe just a different type, like someone that's going to sit down and watch a video, maybe has a different interest in it. But I mean, I'm trying to figure out if I can remember a point where someone asked, oh, is that an heirloom or not? So I don't know if it just hasn't caught up with us yet, like how, are you gardening organically does or doesn't?
Yeah.
I think that's probably more top of mind to people now. Not completely. I don't think everyone cares or even, knows about it. But I wonder if we're still on the road to the conversation around heirloom and hybrid being more popular or more of a consideration with everyday gardeners. I could be completely wrong, too. That's a rarity, but that actually happens more often, clearly, than I think. But it just feels that way, when it comes to the dialogue we were having about gardening.
Yeah, I mean, so I know when I go to somebody's garden, I don't ever ask like, is your garden organic? For two reasons. One, I really don't care, and two, I don't want to seem like a snob. You know what I mean? Like, oh, your garden's not organic. Like, it doesn't matter. But the only time that I would really ask about the seed or itself is if it was a wild looking plant or just something crazy about it, or it was like really big. And, you're getting like a 80, 90, 100 pound watermelon or something. Or, I mean, let's go crazy and say you had a tomato shaped like a star or something. Be like, oh, where'd you get, what's that? That's the only time that I would really ask. And then that same thing goes, if it was something really, really big, then I may get into like, well, are you using synthetic fertilizer on that? Or, something like that. Really healthy plants and stuff like that. Because I do know that heirlooms are they're notoriously more difficult to take care of because of, your hybrids or because of their lack of disease resistance and stuff like that. And because I don't know, I mean, Batavia, how much do you buy like this regular old heirloom variety being like really resistant to a certain disease? Do you really buy that?
I almost never look up those specs for a plant, period. No matter if it's hybrid or heirloom. I wait until the problem presents itself. Yeah. And then I'm like, unless I'm trying to think of a crop that kind of going in, I'd heard trouble about it. And so I was trying to be proactive. I don't know if I can think of one off the top of my head, so it's what someone maybe has recommended, what, is pretty cool, what I believe, specific varieties before I even get to the heirloom or hybrid. Like that's what drives me. And, I think information is great. And maybe I'm just not at that state with the garden. Maybe I'm taking for granted that I don't have a ton of problems when it comes to, disease and troubles with certain plants. But yeah, no, it's not a big consideration when I'm growing things.
So I remember
buying seeds.
I think at one point I got a seed, that was supposed to be resistant, or as a cucumber seed resistant to powdery mildew. And I mean, sure as the day the sun comes up, I got powdery mildew. You know what I mean? So sometimes I don't know if it's like a thing or not. You know what I mean? Sometimes I think it's like the seed will grow and produce enough so when you do get the powdery mildew, you're like, screw it, I'm good. I don't know.
Oh, I think it's the good, better, best. I think, this is just spitballing, right? I don't know this to be fact. I guess there's probably some regulation on this, like what you can and can't say. I don't know. But I almost want to read that with some resistance. Yeah. Like it's more resistant than the one that's, next to it on the page.
Operative word is more. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Same with like insect resistance and stuff like that. Like, that year I grew that national pickling cucumber and I had the worst year ever. And it was supposed to be resistant to whatever it was, So I don't know. I mean, I guess obviously there's like natural immunities or resistance against things, but sometimes I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid, and
and then, I'm always looking to blame someone. So I'm going to blame the gardener, because there's also all the other things that are wrapped around that. Like there's almost assumptions baked in. Did you plant that national I'm not accusing you, but did you, as an example, plant a national pickling cucumber next to some other plant that didn't have that more resistance, right? Because we know it's going to hop.
Oh, look. I planted that cucumber that year that had resistance to powdery mildew, and I put that seed in there like it was Iron Man. I didn't care. I overhead watered it in the middle of the night. It was raining, it was watering. Like I was like, this thing is resistant. Like, it's good, because that's what the package said. So I went in there hard.
No, you did.
I swear I did. I just let it roll. Like, because, sometimes when it's like raining, my timer will go off, I'll run out and turn it off. But that year, I was just like, I'm going to let it roll, baby. This thing is resistant. And it just, But that's the impression that it gave me when I read about it and bought it,
If you could see his face, if you all could see his face, like, he's so genuine with this, and it's so silly. Like, I mean, I get it for sure. Like, I'm always looking to not have to worry about a thing, Yeah. And so, if that's the case, I do like the idea of like your expectations. So earlier on, you said, well, whether it's resistant or not is to be determined, but maybe it gives you more of a chance to get fruit off the plant before it goes bad, before it breaks bad, right? So that's a thing. I mean, I'm sure there's some farmers out that are like, well, no, I'm never growing that cucumber again because, again, it's just riddled with whatever.
Yeah.
And instead I'm growing this because I can get more fruit off the plant, before, again, it breaks bad or whatever have you. So I think we try to keep it to kind of your small scale backyard garden. Ding.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just ring the bell when I speak, because I know when I want to pause to ring the bell. I saw a petition on change.org where listeners of the show wanted more bell ringing.
Hey, let's do it.
More cowbell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think where I'm going back to is how important it is for the home gardener or not, and whether or not, like, do you think we should care? I guess in my band voice, do you think we should care about hybrids or heirlooms?
I only think you should if you're trying to save seeds. And I also believe it's a matter of time before they figure out how a hybrid can become stable enough to save the seed. And I'm pretty sure that there's actually some that already have achieved that. I'm not 100% on that, but everything we say on here is 100% fact, so just go with that. But I'm pretty sure that there are some seeds that were or are hybrid that have been stabilized and should, there's a high, I'm not going to say complete, but a higher percentage that it will save seed to the trait of the original plant that you grew the year before. I know it gets a little confusing.
Yeah, that's very confusing.
Yeah, genetics is not my forte. I'm more of a cut 'em up kind of guy. Like fish and stuff like that. Like,
okay.
Yeah, no. Like we would do, we would go on the boats and they'd be like, we need some genetic samples, some DNA. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then they're like, yeah, and we also need you to pull the gills out of something. I'm like, yeah, I can do that all day long. But
but my grandfather was a fisherman, among other things. And like, I can't, the fish I had at home for most of my childhood was always, caught, brought home, cleaned, frozen. Some was eaten fresh and the rest was frozen, because I come from a long line of folks that freeze food. And the level of freaked out that I would get from even just the scaling of fish, it was done in the basement. And then also that's the same basement sink, one of those big old basement sinks that my grandmother used to wash my hair in too. So those are some mixed memories there that I'm struggling with. But no, I get the idea. There's a lot of science behind this, and we're not, again, trying to make the episode that technical. I'm just curious about how important, are we missing something by not taking heirloom versus hybrid more seriously? I don't know that we are. I'm just asking. I don't know if we are
either. I'm doing a test right now, believe it or not. I'm on a website. And
I love a good garden test.
Yep. I'm on a website and I'm going to do an heirloom and we're going to compare them real quick. I'm sure everybody's thrilled to death that I'm doing this right now.
I always am.
Yeah. So we're going to do the cucumber straight 8 heirloom and then the Supremo hybrid cucumber. All right, so let's start with price. 30 seeds of the hybrid Supremos, $6.45. The cucumber straight 8, 200 seeds for $5. I keep getting ads because I'm on the same website. It's driving me insane. The maturity is the same. The mature height, well, I mean, there's going to be differences, but fruit sizes, direct sow, and the Supremo is supposed to make more cucumbers. Mm-hmm. So it says that it's going to put on every node, there will be a cucumber. So on this one, go ahead.
If you've never had a cucumber from the garden, you wouldn't think that it matters so much, but there's definitely a cucumber can taste really good.
Yeah.
And
I've heard, and the reason why I picked the Supremo is because that's one that I was kind of considering doing, and I'm not ruling out because it's supposed to be a really good tasting cucumber as well, and it's got it's supposed to be just like super productive. So I mean, if you think about it, everywhere on a vine where you see where there would be a flower, there's going to be a cucumber there, guaranteed. Versus the heirloom where it's like, who knows where it's going to come from. So it's like bred for productivity.
Yeah.
But then I start thinking about it, and then I'm like, hold up, I don't want to make that many pickles. So maybe I don't want to grow them. And there's the wrench thrown in the cogwheel of the whole damn thing. The engine stops.
I'm so uncomfortable because you just climbed out of my head. What you said. Right? Like, I had a vision of I've seen cucumber plants with so many flowers, and it's that damn moment. I want my plants to be productive, but it's like at some point, how I'm a guilty gardener. Like what do I do with all these cucumbers? Or more specifically, how quickly I can let them get away from me. So
Yeah, you know what? So I think, and one thing I do want to say is like if you're going to a farmer's market and selling vegetables, grow the Supremo because you're going to make more money. Because I mean, if you think that's 30 seeds for $6 or $5 for 200 seeds, that's a big difference.
Well, I mean, was it the same website? Because it seems like the 200 seed package is targeted to a different buyer. It
was the same website completely.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'll leave.
Yeah, so which one do you want? Like, you don't know which one's better or worse. Which package do you want?
What do you mean, which package do I want?
Which package do you want to be delivered to you? The one with the 200 seeds or the one with the 30 seeds?
Damn, why you gotta ask me a hard thing? I don't know the answer to that.
A part of me wants the 30 seeds, so I'll give you some time here. A part of me wants the 30 seeds because I don't want to feel like I'm wasting 170 seeds.
Yeah.
I don't know the shelf life of cucumbers, but I believe that I've grown cucumbers using the same package years in a row. And obviously, we always say, you can give away seeds and all of that stuff. You can, but 200 seeds in my garden, they're going to sit there for quite a long time. Well, see,
for me, actually, I'd take the 200 seeds because I'd sell the seedlings because that's what I do as well. So I would take the 200 seeds. Now, I will say this about cucumbers. I was just looking on that. They only had like 5 or 6 hybrids. There's only one of those 5 or 6 that I would feel really comfortable putting in my mouth based on the way they look. Because I'm definitely going to judge that book by its cover. Some of them, I mean, one of them was brown. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to eat a brown cucumber. I mean, I would, but it wouldn't be my top choice to be like, check out my brown cucumbers I got growing in my garden. I want a green cucumber, you know?
A girlfriend gifted me some seeds some years back, and one of them was a lemon cucumber. I
hate those.
And I've grown it a bunch of years, and I still can't get the harvest time right. Like, it's always over mature, but it is a distinct taste. I don't know if it's a distinct taste because it's too mature, but it's cool in that it's yellow, but it's not appetizing looking.
Yeah.
Like it's a novelty for sure. I think. Let's see, I don't think it's in my garden plan this year.
There's a guy that I
have like 170 seeds to give away, just so no, I'm joking.
There's a guy that I work with that grew cucumber melons, or the lemon cucumbers, and he would bring them in, and I mean, he'd bring them in bags of them every day, and I would try them. I'm like, man, these are gross. They had a bad texture. So, you learn, learn these things, and I think, especially with like cucumbers, there's like textures built like as a texture trait into the variety. I was thinking about breed, but whatever. The variety of cucumber. So there is that too, because a pickling cucumber is going to be more crispy than a slicer.
Yeah, I was giving him the signal to wrap it up. Yeah. Like I can't believe we're talking this long about
cucumbers. Well, it's better than tomatoes.
Well, no, I feel like we should really just revisit cabbage for the umpteenth time.
I'm done talking about cabbage.
When I listen back to these, sometimes I'm like, gosh, I was so in the moment. How long did we talk about cabbage? Or did we talk about cabbage again? I think it's going to be like the mascot of the show this year. Yeah.
What was it last year? I'm sure there's a listener that's like screaming it right now.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to look back on last year. I'm too excited about this
What was that
year.
ridiculous tomato you grew that year? No, the cucamelon. The cucamelon.
Oh yeah. I think that was probably. It give me so much crap about cucamelons. I think that was 2020.
That's because you called me every day and you were mad. They're like, they're gross.
Like, I still can't get over it. I still feel like, even now, 3 years later, I still feel like I have to be missing something. Like, I want to line up people and get like a reaction, like a taste test reaction, because it's one of those moments of like, this is terrible. Taste it. Like, I can't believe people think it's good. Like, they must be tasting something different. But anyway, yeah, that was a 2020 mascot. I don't know. Someone will have to write into us about what the mascot was last year, the vegetable mascot.
And never mind. That's the Mexican sour gherkin is an heirloom.
It's the same thing.
Oh, is it?
Well, I mean, they go by the same names. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's an heirloom variety too.
So every time you're going to get this.
Yeah. Every time you're going to get some funky, tasteless. That's not true. That's absolutely not true.
And what's wild is it volunteers if I guard it.
Does it? You just can't get rid of it.
Yeah, I've planted it I planted that 1 year and it pops up everywhere. Think about how small it is. The seeds, most times they they ripen and they get dropped. So I definitely see how they pop up in different places. Like, I love a good volunteer, but that ain't it.
That's funny, man. So, I mean, for tomatoes is a big one to go to tomatoes. That's a really big one because you can really pump out some serious production with hybrid varieties of tomatoes. I actually, my heirloom peppers that I grow, I enjoy them. I enjoy the flavor of them. I don't enjoy the amount of productivity off of them. But when I get them, I'm like, you know what? This is way better than your bell pepper or, something real basic. And I think you can get like hybrid bell peppers. I'm pretty sure that's like a big one in the pepper family. So I enjoy that. And I've seen some crazy ones, but I don't know. I don't know how much space I want to dedicate into testing out new varieties all the time. You know what I mean? Because we're all limited in space. I know some people are like, your garden's so big. I'm like, well, it's really not when you break it down and you're trying to grow food for like all the seasons and stuff. Like, how much space do I want to dedicate in my garden to test out something that I don't know how it's going to taste? You know what I mean? Like, I know if I got a hybrid seed that I know that it's probably going to taste like it's supposed to, because that's part of what's factored into it.
Yeah, that's relative though, but I hope that the microphone isn't picking up all the shaking in my head that I'm doing. like all of what she said, right? Like, and then I started thinking like, what if I just had a big lot and I could test out all of these things?
Yeah.
Like, I'm good with testing it out, crossing it off the list, testing it out, crossing it off the list. I was also thinking about this when I got the box of second tomatoes, the ones that may not be the prettiest tomato on the block, at a reduced rate from the farmer's market. You see, I tried to weave in the definition because you always put me on the spot and ask me. So I am so regretful that I didn't ask them, is this all one particular variety? Because remember, I got them pretty pink and they ripened, in my dining room / living room. But when I roasted those beauties and I whipped up my favorite roasted garlic, pepper, tomato sauce, didn't add anything to, I added some seasonings like, Italian seasonings, but not a bit of sugar, not a bit of sweetener whatsoever. And it was perfection. Now, again, the peppers had something to do with that too.
It was all hybrids, all of them. I'm joking.
Yeah, right? I'm going to bring the box back this season. Like, I want to take you back in time. Because they probably only grow a couple varieties of a paste tomato. I can't imagine that they grow a lot of them. I'm going to ask them when I see them this year. It'll be too late. I'll already have mine planted, but it'd be interesting.
It'd be cool if we were smarter than we are, because we could like sit down and say, okay, Batavia likes tomatoes. Let's crossbreed the perfect tomato plant for Batavia. And then you could like start that process. And then, in 5-6 years, because it takes multiple years to do it, you would have like whatever traits you wanted on your tomato. You know what I mean? That would be like a slicer sized canning tomato that grew no more than 4 feet and constantly put out tomatoes, like an indeterminate variety that didn't get super tall, and it would just make like a hedge or something. Like, there's all kinds of crazy things you could do. I don't know how much of it's possible. This is all like in my imagination. So dinosaur sized tomatoes or something. That'd be pretty sweet, wouldn't it?
No, because 10 years from now, you know how my taste buds are going to change.
Yeah.
You're going to get all the way there. I'm going to be like, I like a smoky tomato more so than this acidic tomato. Right?
Well, that's when you introduce that tomato, and you introduce a little bit of a chipotle into it and give it a little bit of smoke.
Yeah,
heat.
but you know what? It absolutely would be cool, because just the idea that it's been bred for me would make me love it. It's the same way we were talking about, like, I end up, I'm drawn to the thing that does well in my garden, right?
Yeah.
It's like, if cucumber melons, well, no, that's terrible. It's a terrible example, because they're just all bad. They're all bad. Outside of kids probably thinking they're cool.
Yeah.
I'll give it that. But there's some things, chard is a great example. Like, I have grown more chard in, these last years in my garden than I will probably consume in a lifetime. It just does so well for me. I have probably 3 preferences for a leafy green, before chard. But it's like, I look at a gift horse in the mouth, like this thing is going to perform, get it in your garden. Basically adjust and start to like it. There's a little bit of forcing myself. That's probably overstating it. I'd rather have lettuce all throughout the garden season than chard every day and twice on Sundays. But chard grows all through my garden season where lettuce doesn't.
Well, and that's a big one too when it comes to this is heat tolerance lettuce. Right? And
now, which side of this are you on now? Remember when you were
what side I'm on.
Off with their heads, the ones that say lettuce is heat tolerant.
Oh yeah, because I grew it side by side and the heat tolerant lettuce bolted first. Now again, I said, it's heat tolerant, then I'm going to put it in the garden that gets the most sun and the most heat. Like, screw it don't matter because it's heat tolerant, but it clearly wasn't. And the other one right next to it that wasn't as heat tolerant did not bolt. So, I think that's a big one too that people try to look for in, hybrids and stuff like that.
Definitely. That is a factor when I consider. Once I learned that lettuce isn't meant to grow through all conditions, including most summers. When I figured that out, I was looking at, this variety is heat tolerant. I actually, when I'm really organized, have seeds organized in that way, specifically for lettuce, like cold tolerant, heat tolerant, because I need to keep it straight in my head. Like I'll mark that down on the seed package. But I think it's just the same way with rust resistance. Like it's not foolproof.
Yeah.
Right?
Don't do what I did, everybody.
You may get one more week of summer where that lettuce is, I swear I had the shoebox lettuce. I swear I was like, is this lettuce bitter? What's happening here? Did they sell me bolted lettuce? It was my salad dressing. It wasn't bitter. The lettuce wasn't bitter.
Yeah, I was actually looking on a website just real quick to see if there was an actual heat tolerant lettuce seed, and they didn't have any hybrid ones. So they do have like broccoli that's heat tolerant. So you know what? Next year I might actually do that because how I have issues with broccoli in my garden come this time of year. That may actually be a very good possibility that I grow. Here we go. You grow an heirloom in the fall, and then in the spring you grow the hybrid that can tolerate the heat. And so now you're getting the best of both worlds. You know what I mean? So I think that's a good possibility too. So there's all kinds of ways to like use this as a method in your garden to ensure a harvest. Because I think when it comes down to it, you're not going to, I think if you did, let's say you had like a moral problem with growing a hybrid for whatever reason. I think when you put the seed in or you start it, you may be like, well, damn, I'm growing a hybrid. But once you start seeing that head of broccoli when you wouldn't normally get it, you'd be like, damn, I'm growing this hybrid and I'm going to sing it to the mountaintop.
Yeah. Your morals are questionable then. Yeah, obviously. No, in all seriousness, I think going back to your point around, our space being limited, right? So maybe you don't necessarily have a moral problem with growing hybrids. Maybe you're that passionate about growing heirlooms and you basically have to make some choices. You only have so much room to grow things, so maybe hybrids aren't plentiful in your garden because you want more heirlooms. I'm sure that's a thing. I'm sure someone's sitting saying, yeah, that's me. Hey, one person.
I want more heirlooms than I want hybrids in my garden. It's funny. I have the closed caption turned on. Every time you say heirlooms, it calls it heirlooms or looming LOL.
Oh, I forgot to turn the closed caption on for you. Damn it, we're at the end of the episode.
I know.
I don't know. I don't think I'm ready to make a decision because I just don't want to make a decision around it. That's unlike me. But I don't know. I don't know if I care that much.
Yeah. I don't think I do either, except for when it comes to saving seed. I think that's really what it comes down to for me.
You know what? What I can say on the heirloom versus hybrid, I don't have, a purview into all of the heirlooms, but I felt a little bit restrained. Like, I felt like when I was thinking about, I'd like to increase the number. I said this on the show some years back of heirlooms that I grow, that I kept on coming across seeds. And I'm like, I'm interested in that. And it's like, well, that ain't an heirloom, and so I'm basically going to say, no, never mind.
So that's where I was before too, where I would see something like, that looks cool. And I'm like, oh, wait, and then I started thinking about it. And that's what kind of spurred me into this is like, what does it matter? Like, what's the purpose? Like, if I'm not even considering saving seed from it, then who gives a crap what I do? Who cares if I grow a hybrid or an heirloom? Like, whatever, And I think it's a status thing too. Sometimes, like, I'm growing only heirlooms.
You're known for a
thing. Would you like to come see my heirloom garden? That's like my. That's like my seductive. Like, I'm better than you look.
Yeah, you all didn't want to. You don't want to see that.
It's not attractive. I did not win my wife over with that look at all.
So can I say something in closing?
Yeah.
All right. So for everyone that's sitting here thinking like me and being disappointed that I didn't say it until now, here it goes. For the purposes of the zombie apocalypse and rebuilding the world, heirlooms are critical. Yep. And seed banks across the world focus on that. There you go, everybody. Well, I mean, I don't know if I have that kind of connect, though, so.
You do. You got more pull than you think. But come join us on the Backyard Gardens community group on Facebook and continue this conversation. And if you want to support the show, come see us on Patreon or Apple subscriptions. And until next time, everybody, learn to grow and grow for change.
See ya.
Now you know why people feel like celebrating at harvest time.
All over the world, people have feasting and good times when the crops have been gathered in.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for checking out the Backyard Gardens podcast.
If you like what we're doing and you want to continue to support the podcast, head over to our Patreon page to sign up.
You can also make a one-time donation using PayPal. Both of these links are in the description.
With your support, we can continue growing and helping others in their gardens. See ya.
If you guys want some Backyard Gardens gear,
go to the link below and check out our t-shirts, mugs, pint glasses, and other gear.
All purchases go towards helping to support the show, so thank you so much in advance, and we hope you enjoy. We want everybody to have a garden, and we're going to give you a chance to win free seeds every month.
Head over to backyardgardenstv.com and enter your email address to be entered in all of our giveaways.
Good luck.
We want you to be a part of our gardening community. DM us a picture of your garden at Backyard Gardens TV on Instagram, and we will share it with our listeners.